Francis DeLuca is the president of Civitas. Said you follow state politics very, very closely, in fact. What do you make of Phil Berger's comments on tax reform? Could see a 0% personal income and corporate tax if you read between the lines. Or are there any lines not to be read between?
I don't think there's a lot of lines to be read. If you listen to what he said about tax reform, he was talking about elimination or lowering, and he said the ultimate lowering would be zero. And I think in the Senate at least, there's a big move to get rid of the personal and corporate income tax. There's a number of people in the House. McCoy has spoken. He hasn't come that definitive, but across the three, the House, Senate, and Governor, there is a real push for major tax reform. Something we've always talked about in North Carolina. No one's actually done it. We will see, tax reform this year, just how big. Civitas, we've done a study of it. We actually have a website, noincometacnc.org, that explains the benefits, also talks about some of the details of how you go about it.
And so your organization is off the fence on this issue. You're advocating the elimination of income taxes.
Absolutely. If you look at what it would mean in our economy, it's a huge plus. We're talking, if we'd had it for the last decade, several 100,000 more jobs today, so our 9.3 unemployment rate would be much lower. It's also talking, you're talking about family of four, personal income up $10,000 for a family of four. Today, for average taxpayers in North Carolina, it would be an instant $2,000 increase in their take-home pay.
Another analyst has said that this is a regressive tax, that right now this system is set up so if you're really poor, you don't really pay taxes. I guess you get tax credits and all these other things. What happens to all that structure for the so-called working poor if you go no income tax, no deductions, it's a sales tax?
Well, mostly what happens is nothing, because most of the support for poor people is federal support. It's federal transfer payments. And when people talk about regressivity, they never count in the effects of transfer payments. They don't count in rental assistance. They don't count in food stamps. And food stamps, by the way, aren't taxed. So when people buy groceries using food stamps, they will not pay a sales tax no matter what the state does. Things like Medicaid assistance, Smart Start, none of those things are taxable income. All that stays in place. So in terms of the regressivity, most of the sales tax expansion will be on the back of upper income earners, upper income people, the people who consume services. So really this is taking the sales tax, modernizing it, and pushing more of it towards middle and upper income taxpayers, because they're the ones who consume services more than products.
Senator Berger spent a fair amount of time discussing unemployment benefits, that the state can't change the benefit structure or it loses a new round of unemployment, federal unemployment dollars. How do you see that playing out at the state level? Do they wait and get the money? Do they make the changes and cancel out the opportunity to receive federal money?
Well, the proposal to fix UI is actually a good proposal because nobody likes it. Anytime nobody likes it. If they wait and take the federal money, they're going to continue to dig this hole deeper. And I think an estimate of about $400 million deeper in debt if we take it for a full year. So they have to weigh increasing the debt, extending the time that it takes to repay it. And each year that they don't repay it, the federal tax on employers goes up.
Education reform is also on the Senate Republican agenda. What's left to reform? Caps gone on charter schools. You have teacher tenure, that was mentioned. What are the big items left?
Well, teacher tenure is a big item. I think you'll see some, with a cooperative governor, I think you might see some more actual reform of public education, allowing more freedom of the localities. The other really big thing is true choice in education, to empower parents to decide where their children go to school. Money follows the student instead of dictating where it is. And that would be the ultimate in terms of reforming public education in North Carolina, because that would make public education have to compete for the student.
The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, two big items. You expand Medicaid in North Carolina as the law allows and will fund, the federal law. And you also have to deal with what to do about the health care exchange. What do you do about both of those, and how do you perceive what the Senate will do?
Well, I think if you listen to overall what Senator Berger was saying, he was talking about cutting spending. And both the exchange, the Obamacare exchange, and the Medicaid expansion, both of those ultimately lead to higher state spending. If we do a state or a hybrid exchange, there is necessity to spend state dollars to support those things. That's why the state exchange or a hybrid is a bad idea. The Medicaid expansion, people go, well, that's 100% federal funded. No, it's only 100% federal funded for the initial start of it, and then it transfers over to a federal state match, which would necessitate huge increases in state spending and Medicaid just shortly down the road.
Francis DeLuca, Civitas, thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure.